So again, just to review, we have shown that the logic that Keith and Sam are using, it is flawed. We've showed again that just because people said, for example, in verse 10 and Surah 10, talking about the Quraysh saying that it is Allah when they're asked, that is a flawed logic because it's a general verse. That is like saying to Christians that they believe in Yahweh and Jews believe in Yahweh and that it's the same. It is not the same, because when you go into the finer details, it is not the same. We have addressed the issue of the so-called multi-personality of God and the Trinity of God. Keith having a problem with me calling him on that and me challenging Keith to show us just what does he mean by that. We have showed that, and I've talked about it, I covered that, a full debate about the Trinity and the proofs that Keith wants to put forth about the Trinity and the Lordship of Jesus and him being God can be debated in a different debate. I've passed over these issues and just made the points of the flawed logic that Keith has applied. I've talked about the ridiculous claim of so-called contradictions. Well, if this is not right, then it's a contradiction. So which one do you want to go for? You know, so do you agree with me, number one, that Allah and Hubal are the same? For example, the bringing of the hadith of Prophet Muhammad and Omar and Abu Sufyan about Hubal and Allah being different. Then you call to the principle of embarrassment, which I've showed how ridiculous it is, because that hadith itself does not talk about trying to prove that the two are different. It is basically a mere conversation that happened after war. And I've showed about the Ishmaelites and what your argument is flawed because they got it from Ishmael. The people at that time got it from Ishmael. I showed about the so-called generic fallacy, the silence of attacking Hubal, and how it is not correct because the Quran is silent on many things. Does not mean that it agrees with them, and that it mentions things that would obviously apply to the negation of Hubal and incorporating Hubal as an idol. I've showed many other arguments that have been repeated from the previous videos because Sam and Keith seems to keep going back and back to the same arguments and not trying to we talked about Rabb. We showed how you are translating and pronouncing and showing wrong in your so-called transliteration of the Arabic. Bil Rabbi Yusha, trying to make it that Jesus is Ar-Rabb. And even so, my argument was not just about the actual article Al-Rabb and that being a criteria for actual divinity. I've shown all these things, and it is quite clear from these videos, these arguments that are put forward, that yes, Sam and Keith are good at talking, they're good at trying to provide things, but those arguments stand with no strength when they are put forth with the truth, when they're put into context, and when they are being analyzed and scrutinized. Such arguments have no face whatsoever, and they get destroyed in this time. So anyone who has any kind of intellectual ability that God has given us can see the difference between the two arguments. They can see how ridiculous and that these claims have to be pursued to accuse the author, the God of the Quran, to accuse that he is Satan, to say that he is Hubal, and to try to ridicule the faith. And again, it is quite clear what an evil argument that is, and how basically it just comes with no proof. So thank you very much for watching. We look forward to the responses, and again, to the people who are commenting there, don't bite your tongue and watch the arguments and responses. Be fair, and I pray to God that Allah would open up the hearts of the people who are sincere, and that He will guide them to the truth. And that includes Sam and Keith. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be to those who follow the peace. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.